Fyjo Molly. 非洲的茉莉. Subscribe. Well done.
Hi everyone! Today I'm so honored to have one of the best African artists with us, Miabo Enyadike. Hi Miabo, how are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you, Molly?
Very well. Thank you for inviting us. So now we're at Miabo's fabulous gallery in Johannesburg. And today we're going to discover her personal stories and also her road to success as an African artist. Miabo, why don't you introduce yourself to our interested audience over there?
My name is Miabo Enyadike. I'm a fine artist from Nigeria. I live here in Johannesburg and also in Lagos. And you're welcome to my home, my gallery and my studio. This was how I used to work before. I was more into very tribal art. And I used a lot of acrylic, and I worked on objects, like I would work on board and I would work any fabric that was available. And so these were the works that I did that are old. It's like 2004. And so it's a mixed media art that has African beads, metal, animals. So I did quite a lot of that in those days. And they were more like decor pieces for me. And this is what they look like. And I keep these as memories. They keep me grounded. They always remind me that no matter how contemporary and modern I make my art, that this is where I was before and this is where I started from. I love to create art out of anything. So it's a sculpture piece made out of old jeans, paint and bottles. So this is called unity in diversity, meaning no matter how diverse we are in culture, ethnicity, creed, religion, language, there's a unifying factor here, and that unifying factor is we're human beings. So this is what this represents. So these are like human beings that are together. What is the unifying factor that I have used is the genes. I have a degree in fine and applied arts. I got that degree in 1992, but I never created art. I felt that I was more comfortable, marketing and selling. And so I was selling art for artists. In 2005, a horrible incident happened. My gallery collapsed and the ceiling of my gallery collapsed in from a heavy rainfall, and it destroyed all the art that was inside. And at that particular time in my life, I was selling art. I wasn't creating art. And most people just knew me as the lady who sells art, and I was good because I sold to corporate bodies, I sold to individuals, I sold to companies, and I could tell good prices on, I could tell an art how much it would cost. And so that experience left me really, really battered, because when this happened, a lot of people's works were destroyed and it wasn't insured. So everybody wanted me to pay them back, their money. And so what I did was, at that point in time, I knew I had to pay people. So I salvaged what was left. I took it to my home and I set up my home as a gallery. And I started selling from my home. And in the process of selling, I decided for myself that I have to create art that I know that is 100% mine. And so that was the motivational factor for me to go and create my own art, to market my own art, to put my name out there in order to, one, pay the debt, and two, create for myself now a business where I know that I will never have to depend on any artist or anyone but other than myself. When I look back, I'm grateful for that event, because if I hadn't gone through that kind of terrible experience, nobody would know that I'm gifted. I would just be known as, Miabo, the lady who is very good at selling people's art. And I would have been comfortable because I was doing very well doing that. Okay. This was...
This was when you were 20-something.
Yeah, selling art.
Yeah.
This is, I'm slightly older here.
Yeah.
But still selling art.
And you were selling art in Nigeria from what age to what age?
From age 24 to age 38. So this is my gallery, the one that had the problem.
So this is you?
Inside, yes.
And how old were you here?
I was 34.
Yeah.
34 years.
How many years it took you to pay all the debts from your own art?
Between 4 to 5 years.
4 to 5 years.
Yes.
You have arts from all over Africa.
All over Africa.
From North Africa to
yes,
South Africa.
Yes, people used to bring their art
Okay.
for me. This they used to bring for the papyrus one from
Is it
Egypt.
From Egypt.
Yes.
Wow.
So these ones were local artists in
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
This is the basket, the weave,
Yeah.
the drums. This is clay, like candle lights.
Yeah.
When I used to run a gallery, when the artists bring their works for me to look at it, I would always say to them, you have to be unique. That should be your selling point, because people can tell when you're copying. So uniqueness, character, very, very important, should show in your work. And so when I started creating mine, you know, you have to do what you say. And so I had to create a sense of uniqueness. I didn't want to do oils. I didn't want to do acrylic anymore. I didn't want to do pastel. I just wanted something that was unique. When you see it, when you see the colors, you say, this is Miabo. This is Miabo. And the only way I could do that was to go deep into myself and to check cultures, every culture. I knew that for me to stand out, I had to marry 2 cultures. I just had to marry 2 cultures, be it European and African, Asian and African, American and African, whatever it was. And for me, the Chinese culture, for me, was what came. When I was looking for inspiration, and I found this book. It's called The Art of East Asia. And I said to myself, Asia, you know, I'm not too familiar. So where's East Asia and where's, you know, is this China? Is this India? Is this Singapore, Japan? What is this art? And so I decided to flip through the book. And first of all, what I saw was mostly ornaments, but it was the Chinese culture that, you know, caught me in. And then gradually, as I went through it, I now started seeing art, this Chinese art. You can see like art like this. And I said to myself, how do they achieve this? Because the art is all ink-based, and you can see the calligraphy and all that. And that was what I was trying to look for myself, to say, you know, how do I create a uniqueness that is basically ink-based? And so this particular one by Wang Chun, a country estate of Wang Wai, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it very well. I read about how he painted this with the ink. And I loved the story, you know, so much. And that was how I decided that I was going to go fully into ink art. And things like this, you know, things like this were inspirational to me. I wasn't going to paint exactly this, but I was going to use ink to create features. My art is ink-based with a total reference from the Chinese way of painting. My inspiration came from this book, and it's been that way since. These pots are inspired by the old Ming Chinese vases, and this is ink, but the background is applied fabric. So it's canvas, you know, cut into squares, and I applied it on the glass vase, and then I painted on top of it and then poured the ink on it to give me that same look. But the inspiration is definitely from the Chinese Ming dynasty, the vases that they used to make then. I love to paint women with the, you know, they have their hair all rolled up at the back like a coif. I love that. And so if you see this is very Miabo. This is how I paint. This is how I express my view about women. This is the paper I use for, you know, all my art.
Yeah.
And it's basically made for cake. The cake box paper, what they used to put the cakes inside.
Exactly.
Yes.
So one side is very smooth,
yes.
The other side is a bit rough.
It's a bit rough. Today I'm just going to create basically art in red. I like monocolors, meaning I can use one color. And so that's how I create. But I look for colors that are not necessarily black. So when I paint, like now I'm going to like create a face. Anybody who follows my art knows that that's what I basically love to create, faces of a woman. And so the reason why I love this paper so much is that it creates for you the shadows, and it helps kind of in your art when you're drawing. So it's not difficult. So you can create simple abstract, and my art is referred to as abstract expressionism. So this paper allows me to express myself in the way that I want and I feel that I should. Most mornings, this is what I do. After all the running and stuff, I just sit down and I drink my gari watching the Johnsons. It keeps me grounded because I get to see how what is happening in Nigeria, the culture, and I remember where I come from. And one thing that is current now with the African artists is that we can't create the real African, the indigenous African art anymore, which is the kind of art that you see in the museums. That's because they are very expensive to create. So most of us are creating our own Africanness. What do I know about Africa? That's what I create. How do I see Africa? That's what I create. So for me, having discovered how difficult it is to get craft people, indigenous craft people, to create real African art, I decided to create my own African art. And for the world to see the new kind of African art that is coming out, it means African artists have to take their art out there. And I'm looking seriously at taking my art to China, you know, to create that, because I've already gone to Europe and the rest, but I'm looking at the Chinese market now. That's the market I'm looking at. And I'm also saying to other African artists that you take your work and go to China. So China for me right now is the future in terms of where I go with my art. I can see myself visiting China in the very near future. I'd love to explore China. I know it's a massive, massive country, but I really would love to explore China, to learn the culture, to meet other Chinese artists, to see what's going on in the art trends in China, and to see how people buy art in China, what makes them buy the art that they buy, and to learn the intricacies in the Chinese artists, the lifestyle of the Chinese artist, the lifestyle of the Chinese art gallery owner, the lifestyle of the Chinese art buyer, because these are three different things: the buyer, the gallery owner, and the artist. So it's something that I would love to explore in the near future. So I really see myself going to China very soon.